in honor of Gladiator 2, are you not entertained? Was that not every bit as entertaining as you would want? It was all the second half fireworks that we've come to expect from this Texans offense. Scored a couple of touchdowns in the second half. Couldn't be happier. I've got my finger on the pulse of the fan base, and I know that people are psyched about that game. There were some positive improvements. I thought that Joe Mixon in the second half actually benefited from his blocking as opposed to Joe Mixon just making everything on his own. So that was good versus a bad Jaguars defense, to be certain. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring this video. I'm going to play some plays from the game. I'm also going to probably react to D'Amico Ryan's press conference. But first and foremost, since this is going to be a topic, I'm guessing, on the debate shows for the next 3 days, we've got to get to Elshire's hit, as Mantequilla asks, how many games will Elshire get suspended? I don't know. This is the whole thing. Malicious intent. Was it malicious intent? No, this is a problem. It's because it's Elshire who's got a history of malicious intent. Let's watch it. Let's just do this. Let's watch it in real time first. Rocketing towards the, and then he goes down. Elshire hits him right there immediately. You see the fencing posture. At first, I took a moderate amount of heat from this on social media. I thought it might just be because Elshire had hit him right in that separated shoulder and that his left arm was sticking out, but his right arm was sticking out too, so classic signs of head injury there. I'm not arguing about whether or not that was a head injury. I just hoped for Trevor Lawrence's sake for a minute that maybe it wasn't a head injury, but yeah, it was a head injury. Oh, and then a ruckus ensued. I don't know if you guys have ever been at the bottom of a melee, but it's exhausting. If you've ever been dogpiled even for positive things, like you have a game-winning sack and you get dogpiled, it feels like you're about to be suffocated, like in some English soccer tragedy or something. And Elshire was trying to fight pretty much anybody wearing teal. So right here is when the slow motion starts that you can see Lawrence, who, by the way, separated his shoulder running and taking a hit while not sliding, if I remember correctly. Right there's where Elshire's got the time to make the decision whether to lay off or just to let him slide underneath him. And in real time, it's hard. It's really, really hard. I know that some people are painting him out to be the devil. Right there, that's where the slide starts. Elshire's already thinking about making the hit because that is right at the first down line. And it's that little extension with a forearm that's going to get him. And I love the way Elshire plays. It's like, love it or hate the rule. I mean, in slow motion, it just looks way worse than in real time. So he's probably going to get, I'm guessing he'll get suspended for a game. And people will be all upset because it wasn't more than a game. The part about it, honestly, that concerns me more than anything else was this part afterwards where Toe is trying to hold him back. Elshire is just flipping out and have completely lost it by that point. They'd been trying to control him at this point. I don't know when this happened or if they just showed it when it was coming back from break. But, man, and I'll say this, credit to Brandon Scherf from the Jaguars, the offensive lineman that was looking to fight Elshire. I'd take some of that from our offensive lineman at some point, some kind of fight like that. I thought the offensive line did better today versus a bad defense, but I thought the protection for the most part was a lot better than it has been. They picked up some blitzes that I was pleased with. We'll show some of those. I think I read that D'Amico gave the offensive line a game ball. Cade Stover had some really nice blocks in the second half. Joe No Glove Mixons, Aziz ready to fight every week. Thank you. It was that part. Do you think the fact that he got ejected will figure into whether they suspend him? As far as will he get time served? It's a good question. The ironic thing about it, and over at BetUS, by the way, you can get 150% off your first deposit, 125% off. Not 125%. At BetUS, you'll get 150% bonus on your first deposit, up to $2,000. 125% bonuses on your second and third deposits. Just use that code YouTube150. I took the over again today. I've been a sucker for thinking the Texans are going to show up versus bad teams. They were making a good fight there, but I think, ironically enough, you'll just still look at this without emotion or anything about the hit. When you take Elshire out of the game and you take Trevor Lawrence out of the game, the way Trevor Lawrence was playing up to that point, I think the Jaguars were better off with Mac Jones. I mean, you look at Mac Jones was 20 for 32, 235 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, passer rating of 105.6. Trevor Lawrence, who'd made some risky throws up to that point. I mean, he could have had 3 interceptions by the time he left. He was 4 for 10, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 12.9. So Mac Jones was a better quarterback today. I don't think Trevor Lawrence looked right the entire time he was out there. But it took a while for Mac Jones to start hitting stuff over the middle. You watch this play. I was surprised they didn't start really trying to exploit the linebackers immediately. Here's the Brian Thomas one. Let me turn the volume down on here because that tends to get pinched for copyright when the volume's on the replays. So this is just, I think, mesh over the middle. They create confusion amongst the linebackers, and boom, there you go. Brian Thomas Jr. for his big play of the game. So that part of it I know was frustrating because people were, whether you want to call it prevent defense or what, they were backing off, and the Texans' pass rush wasn't really getting there. There was one more play I wanted to show you involving that. Oh, they wouldn't let me add it. So the pass rush wasn't getting there, but Mac Jones was getting rid of the ball really quickly. The Texans, if they want to be able to play zone and get a 4-man pass rush, the guys on the edge got to win faster. I think there were some nice pass rushes where they were getting there, but the ball was coming out. There wasn't anybody really just winning quickly and winning immediately right off the snap. Other than was it Tim? Did Tim Sauter? Was that? Yeah. Right up the middle. Oh, that was on a run play. So that part of it versus a good team versus a better quarterback than Mac Jones. Yeah, I'm worried about that. Versus a team that had a full complement of wide receivers. I don't think there was really anything offensively or defensively you saw today that makes you feel better about how they'll do versus good teams. If we go to some of the, let's see, Joe Mixon's touchdown. I'll give credit, honestly, to the blocking here. Cade Stover had some nice blocks on a lot of these when he was coming around the edge. Stover clears it out. Mixon breaks the tackle by Laramie Tunsil at the very end there. Good job steering clear of him. But the stuff attacking the edges, this is the kind of stuff they were able to get an edge today where the tight ends and the receivers especially weren't able to do that versus the Titans. Titans are a more physical defense. So it was good job by them today. Oh, they cut that off. Okay. So good job by them today. I don't think this would cut it versus a playoff caliber team. I don't think it would cut it versus the Lions and the Super Bowl, whatever it might be. But they executed well enough on the offensive line. There's room. There was improvement there. I thought I saw better cohesion and coordination amongst the offensive line on those zone runs. So that part of it was good. Jimmy Ward was injured a lot. Henry To'oTo'o smacked the hell out of him. I think I might have that. That was the one they wouldn't add. I tried to add the Henry To'oTo'o hit on Joe Mixon, where basically the problem with the Texans defense at times is that they're colorblind. They're going to come up and they're going to hit anybody and everybody that's within the vicinity. And I admire the pluck. I admire the aggressiveness. I admire all of that. But, man, stop hurting your own dudes, man. If Jimmy Ward's not hurting his own guys, then somebody else is hitting Jimmy. It's like that big Human Centipede movie on the Texans defense right now. They're all circled up in a big old human centipede, taking shots at each other or anybody else that comes around. This game didn't change my outlook for the end of the year, but I feel better about the team because of it. I'll take that. Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens coming up after the bye. How many did I don't want to think about it right now. The bye week was needed. I'm a bye week skeptic. I always say, well, it doesn't matter. If you get it late in the year, then, hey, you get it when you're more banged up. If you get it early in the year, then, hey, guys are that much fresher. Man, this year, it felt like they needed this bye week. And I know, and I've seen just a couple of questions and references to Bobby Slowick. This is what I think many of you feared or dreaded. Like, in the absence of an absolute onslaught where the Texans score 58 points or something, it was going to be hard to feel good or better about the Texans versus the good teams if you beat the Jaguars 23-20. And that's with, I thought, improved pass protection. I think CJ, the one play where he took a sack, let's see, I think is this one. So they pointed out It's 3rd and 13. You're on the 42-yard line. So it's a 60-yard field goal from this point if you were hypothetically to go for it, which obviously they wouldn't. And they pointed out on this play as CJ's coming, like CJ's got Schultz wide open right there. If that gets you to the 38, that's a realistic field goal at that point. Taking this sack, I think CJ was still thinking Schultz as he started to escape the pocket, but that's one where I think that's one of those examples where CJ's got to get rid of the ball faster. I thought for the most part today, he was calm, cool, and collected in the pocket. He made some nice throws when the pocket was compressing or when he had to move around the pocket. I don't think he looks shell-shocked or anything like people were starting to worry last week. There's still room for him to sometimes take the easy money in situations like that. But the sum total of it, I didn't feel all that awful about it today. Whether you want to call it an underthrow to Tank Dell or what have you, A, yes, should have been pass interference. B, in isolation, I wouldn't have thought about too much about that because it was late developing and CJ was really, he was hanging in the pocket and throwing from, I don't know if he was able to step up into that throw. But we've seen this enough now, at least a couple times to Tank Dell or to Nico Collins last week on that long strike where Nico kind of had slow down for a little bit. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know what it is. CJ just doesn't quite seem to have that same connection on the deep ball that he had last year. So I don't want to sit here and say I hope it's an injury or I hope he's banged up, but at least that would be an explanation. And it should have been a pass interference on that. Okay, based on your experience, what does the bye week give players other than rest? What can a good bye week do for this team? The rest is huge, mentally as much as physically at this point, I think. But ideally, what I hope is that they could figure something out with the way the offense is operating, what has caused some of these really frustrating penalties. And today, after that Cade Stover illegal alignment, I don't remember a lot of super frustrating penalties. When they got a false start from MJ Stewart on what might have been the beginning of a fake punt attempt, I guess it wouldn't be a fake punt, but they'd be running on 4th and short there. My first thought was, why'd they put Laramie on punt team? But it turned out it was MJ Stewart with the false start. They were cleaner. The Elshire penalty was a big, ugly penalty. If it weren't Elshire, man, I'm not gonna excuse the hit. I do think that Elshire is a veteran enough and savvy enough to pull up in the last moment on that play. And yet I don't think it was dirty. I think it was Trevor Lawrence running full speed towards the first down line. And Trevor Lawrence is a guy who's taken contact before. And Elshire has just got to do that really, really hard thing of laying off at the last moment. It's hard to do, but I don't think it was malicious intent. It's just harder when it's Elshire, who's punched guys on the sideline, had a late hit that was ridiculously late last week. So I won't criticize him for dirtiness per se, but I'll criticize him for poor judgment because it's just too many times we've seen this out of him. The Chicago game on the sideline, last week late hit out of bounds. You've got to teach these young guys how to balance the rage. You've got to be an example for how do you crank it right up to the upper limit and then dial it back? You've got to be able to do that. But I love the way he plays. I love all of that. It's just they got to quit that. Tua Lawrence got smoked. I'm not laughing at that. I'm showing what somebody would do if they were laughing at it. The O-line did a better job today. CJ looked a little bit more comfy. Yeah, so... And again, this isn't a good defense. This is the worst passing defense in the league. Last week they faced the Titans, who were the best passing defense in the league, right? By at least one metric. So it's hard for me to get really excited about 23 points. I will get excited about, the box score excitement. Joe Mixon, obviously. And Joe Mixon, early in the game, I know many of you were in agreement with me when Moose Johnston said, I don't know why they're shying away from running the ball. Well, I was like, at the time, Joe Mixon was rushing for 1.8 yards per carry. Then he had a nice run right after that. Then he had a horrible run where it wasn't his fault because he got swallowed up in the backfield, and he was down to 0.8 yards per carry. And then, lo and behold, by the end of the game, good job getting the run game going in the second half. If you have a genuinely good zone rushing attack, this is the kind of stuff you start to expect. Back in the Gary Kubiak days, we used to get frustrated in the first half all the time. Like, why? Why are you still running the ball when it's not working? And then by the second half, you start to get linebackers flowing a little too fast. You get the cutback lanes like this. Let's see. And this wasn't even a cutback lane one. The touchdown was, I showed that earlier. If we look at the Joe Mixon first down play, the game sealing, here it is. All right. Again, Cade Stover. Nice play by Cade Stover. Playing the quasi fullback position. Seals off the edge. Robert Woods comes in. Just clears the lane for him. And there you win. Jarrett Patterson with the first down signal. Good job by the Jarrett Patterson. So Cade Stover with some good blocks out on the perimeter today. That was encouraging. I still have a lot of hope for Cade Stover to develop into a complete tight end. We saw good Dalton Schultz today, and we saw bad Dalton Schultz. We saw the Schultz touchdown, which was very, very good. And credit Bobby Slowick for scheming up some wide open guys at times this week, where early in the year, Cade Stover, he schemed him open last week, schemed Dalton Schultz open this week. Dalton Schultz, you're not allowed to try to hurdle guys. You got very nervous when Dalton Schultz looked banged up at the end of that play. You are not Saquon Barkley. I admire the effort, and it was, you know what? I'm not even criticizing you because you got a first down on that, if I recall correctly. Don't do that again. That's not your thing, man. That's not your thing. Blocking and hurdling people, not your thing. You had a really ugly snap early in the game. Yeah, great job. Yes, as Mantakia pointed out, it was a great block by Woods on that. The Jags had a ton of protection. Their O-line was going all out. They did a good job. The Jaguars' offensive line did a good job versus the Texans' pass rush today. I was banking on Will Anderson for one of my picks to get a sack today, and he did not. But I forgive him for today because they got a victory. Let's get back to our sacking ways, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. But I'm eager to go back and watch the All-22 because the sum total of it was the Texans were playing a lot of zone, especially in the second half. They treated Mac Jones like a rookie quarterback, and Mac Jones played like he did his rookie year. Right? That's when Mac Jones was the rookie of the year. He looked awesome. And Mac Jones is wildly erratic. He's not consistently accurate. And yet, in the second half, he knew where to go with the ball. He was getting rid of it on time. I thought Doug Peterson did a good job of attacking that weakened linebacking core. Once you replace Alshire with Neville Hewitt, there's opportunities there. And Christian Harris, who knows? He's in the Kyle Tucker zone right now. We don't know if we're ever going to get him back. If Alshire's out for the Miami game, at least, and Christian Harris, even if he comes back for that game, which I'd be surprised if he did, but even if he does, I don't expect him to be super sharp yet. And who gets rid of the ball faster than anybody else in the league? Tua Tagovailoa. All that stuff that the Jaguars were doing today, that's kind of like Tua Tagovailoa light. Yeah, you let mesh screw you up over the middle. Yeah, good luck with that, especially when you got Tyreek Hill on the other end of it and everything. Like they got to get hopefully healthy and get clean and then get that pass rush going versus the Dolphins because that's going to be a test. Let's see. You sure about the blocking? Bobby thought he could block Hines Allen. I don't know what that means. I was going back and forth between being irritated at the mistakes and the announcers, especially late in the game. That's why I love Woods on this team over Noah Brown. Yeah, Woods is scrappy. They finally schemed Schultz wide open. Yeah. We're not a good team. Yeah, they're a mediocre team. They're a 500 football team right now. You know, they're medium plus. They're like some people somehow eat their steaks medium plus. And that's how it feels when you have a medium plus football team. Like you're eating a medium plus steak. Like, no, I need this thing to be medium rare to suck out all the juices. And right now it's just, I know the scale and the metaphor breaks down when I start going down. But they're medium plus right now. And they're not still even after this game. And I'm trying to look, I'm enjoying this victory. I've got deep and serious concerns about this offense. I don't think today necessarily really proved a lot other than that it was in the second half one of the better performances we've seen running the ball consistently and for chunks and doing it when you needed to in short yardage. So that was all really good. It doesn't make you feel like, oh, yeah, this is going to work in the playoffs or this is going to work if you had to play the Lions again. There's still a physical mismatch in terms of just mentality and physicality when it comes to the offensive line and the tight ends. I think the wide receivers are all very, very scrappy. I think they all want it. They want to destroy people when they block. They're just not physically capable of doing it all the time. But yeah, that's where they are right now. Let's see, what's their record now over the past? They had lost 4 of 6, so now they've lost 4 of their last 7. If I'm going to frame it in the most negative way possible, but they've won 2 of their last 3. Let's put it that way for now, and lost a close one to the Lions. Let's see, who is an elite team? The only teams I'd say are the Bills and the Lions, and we almost beat both. That's a very good point. Good perspective there, engineer. Good perspective there. And the Chiefs, I don't know what the Chiefs are right now. The Chiefs are like the Astros the last couple of years, where they're not themselves, but they're still winning baseball games or football games, and they're just such a wild card when they get to the playoffs that you don't know what to make of them. I mean, the Chiefs were going through this. I don't want to say this exact same thing last year, but Mahomes' numbers are basically like CJ's in a lot of regards. The one thing the Chiefs do a better job of than the Texans is getting to 3rd and short. So, again, today, CJ had a bunch of 3rd and longs. What were they on 3rd down? I'm guessing they converted 4 of 13 3rd downs. Let's see this. Well, now I've got slow internet all of a sudden. Oh, there we go. Okay. 3rd down, they were 5 of 13. So not stellar by any means. And I think that last, I can't remember what down that last Joe Mixon first down was. But they were 5 of 13 on 3rd down, 1 for 1 on 4th down efficiency. They ran for 108 yards, passed for 218. That's total team passing. No turnovers. That was key, obviously. The Jaguars with 1 turnover in the game. 3 penalties for 15 yards. And one of them was a Cade Stover penalty that, I don't know, it seems kind of ticky-tack that early in the game. Maybe just give a guy a break every now and then, huh? And then Alshire too. Okay. Prince Harry, we are crap. This all depends on where you're this you got to remember. Somebody earlier this year said the Texans are awful. They only beat bad teams. Well, that doesn't put on the spectrum of awful, mediocre, good. If you're beating bad teams, you're mediocre. If you're losing to bad teams, then you're a bad team. The sum total of it on the season is that they've beat bad teams. They've beat teams with losing records, and they have lost to basically the NFC North and the Titans, but and a couple other. But as far as the good teams they've faced, the genuinely good teams are all in the NFC North, and they got owned by the NFC North. They beat the Bills. That was a good team they beat. The other thing I'd say about this engineer, okay, we can easily beat any of the Chiefs, Ravens, and Dolphins. The only issue is the team killing itself. Easily is what I take issue with there. Because, again, remember, easily doesn't tend to work. It doesn't tend to work that way in the playoffs. So, yes, remember, like you played to the Lions within 1 score, but in a day where you picked off Jared Goff 5 times, and the offense got completely physically owned by the Lions. That's the tough thing. The Bills, yes, they made Josh Allen look as bad as he's ever looked. He was without 2 of the receivers that he now has, and you're not going to face the Bills at NRG Stadium. So, and then you talk about, okay, yes, on any given Sunday, the Texans could compete with any one of those teams. How do you make it through the playoffs like that when they're at their best? I think that's where the rubber really meets the road. And what it would take is a fantastic defensive effort. Like, let's look at the Lions. That was an incredible defensive effort where you picked off Jared Goff 5 times. You still lost the game because the offense was so bad. So I think that you've got a really good defense that's got some glaring blemishes that'll hurt you versus good teams, but they can make up for it by taking the ball away, by coming up and making tackles for a loss, by getting sacks, all those things. But the offense has to be good enough to keep up their end of the bargain. And as of right now, going into this game, the Texans defense had the most the most pressures created by their defense in the league, and C.J. Stroud had been pressured the most in the league. So that's it's a team game, and I think the defense is good enough to beat those teams. I just have a really hard time thinking the offense is going to be good enough to beat those teams. They scored two second half touchdowns today, finally, but versus one of the worst defenses in the league. But it was good. I'm going to enjoy the win. Yes. Henry Toto almost Jimmy Warded Jimmy Ward. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring this video. Let's see if we can pull up the D'Amico Ryans. Everybody bear with me, because it's going to revolve a little bit of technical chicanery that I'm not always capable of. I want to show you one more play.
The play, 2nd and 14.
This play. Let me turn the volume off on that. So this is good Stroud scrambling. I mean, it wasn't an awful pocket. If he's going to escape, that's the place to do it. And then on the run, under duress, really with a jump throw to John Mechie. And then, and then that part. Remember that part? So the little thing about that. So the coaches in the booth, unless they've changed this in the last couple years, the coaches in the booth, they can only watch the replay on TV. They don't have any extra special technology to let them watch, unless that's changed in the last couple of years. So that challenge came from the other side of the field, like in real time. So kudos to the Jaguars for challenging that play. It was good. And kudos to John Mechie to keep going, though. He didn't hear the whistle. He kept going, so good for him. Didn't work out, but ultimately, let's see the other... Let's see the other box score heroes. So C.J. Stroud, 242 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Got sacked twice on the day. 95.6 QB rating. I know we don't care about QB ratings all that much, but when you look at it in the aggregate, it's been 7 games since C.J.'s had a 100-plus quarterback rating, or passer rating. So that's kind of indicative of how it went today. It was good, but versus the worst passing defense in the league, you're left wanting more than 23 points. Joe Mixon, 101 yards on 5.1 yards per carry, and that's after starting off in his first few carries at anywhere between 1 and 2 yards per carry. Nico Collins, 119 yards because none of his receptions were called back by penalty. Dalton Schultz, 5 receptions for 61 yards. That was nice to see. Tank Dell, 1 reception for 23 yards. That was that one off to the right in the second half. Could have been, at least I always give guys credit for drawing an interference penalty. I felt like he drawed an interference on that play, and it was all for naught because it wasn't called. Joe Mixon, 4 for 18 as a receiver today. John Mechie had his 2 catches for 16 yards. And defensively, boy, only 1 TFL, that Tim Settle one at the beginning. Oh, no, Kamari Lassiter had a TFL as well. And no sacks on the day. We talked about the pass rush earlier. That was disappointing because it wasn't just no sacks. It didn't feel like they were getting really steady and consistent heat on those guys. So let's see if we can pick up. That was a Nico catch called back by a tight end pre-snap penalty. There was a Nico catch. That's right. That was a Nico catch, and that was called back. All right. Let's see if we can watch a little D'Amico Ryans press conference. D'Amico's seemed kind of morose the last few days, and I understand why. Let's see. We will share the Nico Collins, or excuse me. What's the name of that guy? There's too many ecos on this team. So this is D'Amico Ryans. I think I'm sharing it. Share, damn it. Kamari also looks way faster than his 4-5. Yeah, Kamari, I was just about to compliment it on some hard physical tackles, and then he had that play where he fell down. Nico had that nice reception across the middle where the guy tracking him fell down. I can tell you from experience that Jaguars field this time of year, the grass mixture, it ends up being a lot of dirt. Like a lot of the green you saw out there, I'm guessing was actually, the freaking A, man, was actually, why isn't this working? Everybody bear with me. All right, I got to present Nico. Get up here, Nico. The freaking... Okay. All right. All right. What was the green? I got to know. I don't know what the green is. We won the last 10 at Jacksonville. What point do we get the naming rights? I don't know, but I like your thinking. I'm going to try this one more time. Share a screen. I want to share that. All right, well, it's not going to work. All right, I'll take a few more questions. And then I'll start up another live screen with the... I'll start a live stream in a little bit with I'll start a live stream in a little bit with D'Amico since I can't seem to get it work right now. Let's see. Wait until Lamar Jackson hears about people not being allowed to tackle quarterbacks running for a first down. I covered that at the very beginning if you weren't here. I hope Trevor Lawrence ends up being okay, even though he plays for the Jags. I've always rooted for him, except when he was playing the Texans. Yeah, that was... And at the first, I was kind of thinking that maybe I saw his left arm stick out, and I thought maybe, okay, that's the separated shoulder. Maybe it was as simple as that. And when I went back and watched it, that was an idiotic hope for me. But, look, I'd much rather have a quarterback have a worsened separated shoulder than a concussion in this day and age. But hopefully it's not that bad of a concussion. And he also, look, Mac Jones played a lot better than Trevor Lawrence was playing. Trevor Lawrence was averaging 4 yards an attempt. He easily could have had a couple of interceptions before Derek Stingley's interception. Oh, let's watch Derek Stingley's interception. So, hold on a second. Deep ball. And this is the kind of throw that Trevor Lawrence was making. I mean, it's just there for the taking. Oh, beautiful. And then he ran around a lot. I can't play the whole thing because I'll get copyright struck. They'll strike me down. Damn it. Okay, I will do a D'Amico reaction and maybe a little reaction to the highlights later on. So thanks again, everybody, for watching. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Use that code YouTube150 to get a 150% bonus on your first deposit all the way up to $2,000. YouTube150. And please like and subscribe and do all that other good stuff that YouTube loves. Thanks, everybody.